Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our second attempt at the Andy Smyth Kickassery. We're still learning. I'm still learning. I just realized that if we don't start within 10 minutes of when it was actually scheduled, Facebook and this platform called Be Live erases it and it goes away. So we had to start it over and we had to start it new. And I don't know. We'll see what this all turns into. I don't know. So, good morning, Andy. How are you?
Good morning, Dale. I'm great. How are you?
I'm running and gunning, man.
There you go.
Back
There you go.
back to back today, which
Yeah.
is amazing, and I'm super stoked. Let me tell you guys here at Kickassery what's going on. I just finished up with Chef Chris Spear. Now we're on with Andy Smyth. He's a leadership developer, a youth leadership developer. He's been a part of the 4-H program since Dirt was new, and Andy has been one of my biggest mentors and one of my biggest supporters for my, adolescence and adulthood. And I'm super stoked to have him here today. One of the conversations that he and I talked about doing a follow up from our last one was what to talk about. So I would like Andy here to talk a little bit about who he is. And if you want to do the lead in, let's get this thing rocking and rolling, man.
All right. Well, I don't know who all sees these things, Dale, or how much they know about you or I. But anyway, as Dale said, I've been involved in 4-H for many, many years. Was a farmer for many, many years in Canyon County. I've quit doing that and am a farm and ranch realtor at this point. Still trying to figure out what I'd really like to do when I grow up. I guess someday I might have to grow up, but I'm hoping not. So anyway, Dale and I go way, way back till when Dale was a teen and was just starting to try to figure out who he was and where he fit in the world. And it's been really a pleasure for me to have kind of been able to sit on the sidelines and watch Dale all these years from the time he was young and I'm trying to
No,
think.
you could say it. You could say it.
Young and inexperienced, that's the word we'll use. Yeah,
Okay.
like we all are at that point in
Yeah.
our lives. 12, 13, 14, 15. We don't have a clue. We think we do, but we just don't have a clue. So anyway, it's been really a pleasure for me. I've worked with many, many kids over these years in many different capacities, but in Dale has been a unique opportunity for me to have met him at 14 or whatever. And because of both our involvements over the years, we have remained close. We continue to work together with the Idaho State 4-H Teen Conference up at the University of Idaho, which is a 4-H event for mostly teenage 4-Hers. And so we worked closely for many years on various kinds of leadership conferences and activities. And so I've had the chance to almost like one of my own two sons to watch Dale kind of grow up and mature and turn into an awesome young man. And whoever's here last was here last time remembers me mentioning how Dale has just really kind of turned a corner on something here the last little period of time because he is just like blooming before my eyes, and it is really amazing to see. I really enjoyed your handshake thing yesterday. I thought that was an awesome idea to break that up into 20-minute segments and use those basically as chapters for a book. I think that is just crazy cool, Dale. Great idea, and hopefully it works out well. I'm sure that it will. So,
I hope so too.
oh yeah. Well, I'm rooting for you. You've got so much to share there, and many people, especially those who have never had the occasion to think about body language and what an important role it does play in our daily lives, not just in the business world, but with the people with whom we interact every day. I mean,
Right.
I just was having a talk with my older son Nathan the other day, and we were talking about some of this stuff, and I have said for years at ambassadors and other places that youth hear what they see us do much more effectively than they hear what we say to them.
Mm-hmm.
The old saying, actions speak louder than words,
Mm-hmm.
is very, very true. And body language is an integral part of people seeing what we do and
Absolutely.
we do things. So
Yep.
what you're talking about with the body language, Dale, in my opinion, is just a very, very important element of our lives. And the more we understand it and understand how it works with us personally, the more effective we will be with interacting with other people.
And I appreciate that, Andy. I really do. And you have been probably one of my biggest supporters and one of my biggest cheerleaders throughout all of this. I remember back in the day when I started the Power of Body Language, and I was like, hey, Andy, I'm wanting to do this. And you're like, hell yeah, let's make this happen. And Andy followed me around, and Andy, I still have all those discs. Andy followed me
Yeah.
around for dang near a year to almost every one of my seminars and my little there was sometimes 2 people in the room. There was sometimes 30 people in the room. And he videoed every single dang one of them and gave me it for feedback and to look back on things. And Andy, that was huge. And I appreciate that to this day because
Oh
I
yeah.
still have all that
Yep.
content.
Well, I still have the original tapes around here somewhere. I saw them just last winter. I was looking through some stuff.
There you go. There you go. So Andy, you brought up a very, very cool thing, and this is kind of what you kind of broached for the topic today is legacy in leadership. And if anyone that I know who can see the generational impact of leadership, I would say it would be you and a handful of other people that I know who have dedicated such a significant chunk of your life to youth leadership development. And to be able to see, like you already mentioned with me, to see me grow up, to have such an impact on me, and then to monitor kind of what I've done systematically since that time. And then I have then had the opportunity to take what you have taught me to teach that next generation and vice versa. So it's you and I hear it all the time how one person can impact hundreds, if not thousands of
Oh
people.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it really frustrates me. And you and I have had this conversation many times. It frustrates me when I hear people dogging on teenagers, on our youth. Oh, those little shits, they don't know, they blah, blah, they're a bunch of blah, blah, blah. I'm like, good Lord,
Yeah.
you already said it. We don't know anything. We think we know everything.
Yep.
We
Yep.
we we, we think our britches are bigger than what they
Yep.
are.
That's right.
So, what have you experienced? What have you seen in your tenure as a leadership developer for teenagers? I mean, what's your takeaway?
Well, that's pretty hard to condense into just a
That's
simple
a
answer.
Pandora's box. I
It
just I
is,
just
yeah.
opened the box.
There are so many places to go with that. And I think last time you had asked me, what was it I wanted to see the kids get out of these events that I was part of? And I kind of rambled off into a bunch of stuff that was relevant, but uh, it's hard to say. What I
Yeah.
really would like to see the kids get is when they walk away, when they go home from teen conference or ambassadors, my goal is that they had fun. That's the most important part of it, that teens have fun at these things or they won't come back.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
while they're busy having fun, it's our job as adults to make sure that we sneak enough learning in on them that they do actually learn things.
Right.
And I believe that they want that. I believe that's part of their unspoken or really understood expectation of adults is, well, they're supposed to teach us stuff. That's why we look up to them. Even though we want to rebel and go off and prove that
Right.
we're smarter than anybody else, we're still innately as teens thinking, we're supposed to learn from these men and women who are our
Right.
elders, our parents, our 4-H leaders, teachers. I mean, I believe that's part of the unspoken expectation that teens have of adults. So as adults, we're supposed to make sure they have fun, but we're supposed to make sure that we get some learning in there so that they do learn some things, and go home just feeling good about the whole event. May have made some new friends. That's part of the learning that occurs at 4-H things, particularly, is this whole dynamic of meeting new friends that are about your age or that you have things in common with. You share very similar values, and it's fun. That's one of the coolest parts about 4-H is that well, Bubba Leg. Do you remember Bubba Leg, Derek and Bubba?
I
They
don't.
they might have been before you, Derek or Dale, but they were two kids that I had, Derek and Bubba. Derek was the older brother, and Bubba was the younger. And because of the exchange we had here a few weeks ago, a bunch of people came on and have shared things and this and
Mm-hmm.
that. So Bubba Leg and Derek were two kids that were similar to you in many ways, although we didn't haven't had the long term involvement that you and I have continued to have. So anyway, he made some comments. So I wrote back, yeah, blah, blah, blah. Those of us who've been here it's amazing how we're all part of this magical, mystical 4-H family.
Right.
And he writes back, good description. I mean, it really is. It's this,
Yeah.
it's like chemistry between a guy and a gal. We all know what chemistry is, but none of us can really sit down and describe it.
Right.
And that happens in 4-H, that magical, mystical element that exists at
Mm-hmm.
ambassadors, at teen conference, or these things where these teens get together. And I knew it as a kid when I used to go to what we called the Club Congress. Same thing. This whole excitement of meeting a bunch of other kids who shared your values, who also wanted to learn and have a good time. It was just very cool. And the legacy part of it, interestingly, do you remember Heidi Helsley from down in District
Mm-hmm.
3?
Yep.
Well, again, because of one of these trails on the social media, she popped up here in the last week or two, and she did just an amazing job of, in a paragraph, laying the whole thing out, like
Right.
4 elements of what she learned in 4-H and how she has used those things in her adult life to be a better person, to be more productive, to be a better mom. And now she's married, has kids, and her kids are starting in 4-H. So
Right.
when you talk about legacy leadership,
Yeah.
there is a perfect example of it right there. You know,
Yeah.
Melody Cower over there, you know Melody very well.
Absolutely.
You grew up with her, and she had how many kids? And I think they were all in 4-H, if I'm not
Yep.
mistaken.
Yep.
And I think one of the older girls, I think at one point had a job in Arco or something with Extension,
Mm-hmm.
helping with the fair and all this stuff. And so last I heard that daughter of Melody's, her kids had grown up, and then her kids were starting. So there were 3 generations. I
Yep.
don't know if Melody Cower's mom or dad was in 4-H, but I know Melody was very involved,
Yep.
as you know. So her kids were, and then her grandkids were. In my case, that I started 4-H because the neighbor down the road wanted to start a club for his kids to be in. But after 3 years, he quit because he didn't have time in the summer to stay up with it. So I took it over. Well, that was I don't know how many years ago, late 60s, mid 60s, I don't know. So, whatever effect has resulted from that guy starting a club and me joining that club is a legacy
Yeah.
because all those kids, then, whatever little piece I have played in some of these kids' lives through ambassadors or teen conference or national congress, wherever. That's part of the legacy that
Yep.
Alvin Robertson started when he stopped by our place one day and said to my dad, "Hey, I'm starting a 4-H club. Do you think your kids would want to be involved?" And I
Mm-hmm.
remember my dad at lunch one day saying, "Whoa, Alvin stopped by. He's going to start a 4-H club. Do any of you guys want to go?" And I remember it like it happened yesterday. And that look what that started.
Yep.
Look what that. I mean, set aside for the moment what other people may or may not have gained from me being involved, just
Right.
what I have gained personally in the sense
Mm-hmm.
of personal growth, my ability to interact well with other people, all these things, travel, the opportunity to serve on National Congress Planning Committee for years. People give their big toe to serve on that, and they keep asking me
Mm-hmm.
to come back. So look what I have gotten out of it.
Yep.
Well, then you go on to kids that got in. Who knows? It's just unending. It goes
Yeah.
on always. They started some national council started a 4-H alum Facebook page here a while back, and I got some notification, so I joined. And man, I read down through there, people from all over the United States, that have gone on there and put posts, and
Yeah.
everybody says the same thing, Dale. It's
Yeah.
this magical, mystical 4-H experience that just
Yep.
whoever has experienced it, it just doesn't go away,
It does.
and it doesn't go away. So, I have 2 sons, as you know, Nathan and Daniel, and Nathan, my older boy Nathan, he talks about his daughter Ada joining 4-H. He's almost old enough to be a clover bud, so there'll be 3 generations. So
Yeah.
there you go.
Well, my mom, she was 4-H when she was a kid. Um,
Really,
yeah, that's how they started their sheep flock over in Darby, Montana.
really,
So they were a beef family,
right?
and so mom wanted to. She was in 4-H and did a bunch of stuff, and I can't remember if grandma was in 4-H
Yeah.
or if it was just a community thing that they started. And so mom wanted to do a sheep breeding project.
Uh
So
huh.
funny story, mom's mom told grandpa Fritz, she's like, "Hey, I want to do a sheep breeding project."
Uh
So what did he do? He went down to the auction, bought a bunch of gummers, which for those of you who don't know sheep, so sheep, when they get to a certain age, they start losing all their teeth.
yeah.
And when they're a gummer, that means that they're at least 12 to 15 years old. Most sheep only last about 10, but when
Yeah.
they're gummers, they're 12, 15 years old. And of course, he got them for a dime. He didn't spend
Nothing. Yeah.
anything on them. And I think
Yeah.
he picked up 15, and they bred them, mom. And that's how she started her
Yep.
whole flock. and it was
Wow.
her breeding project, and she went and did it all. So when I came around, and we didn't have clover bud up in my neck of the woods really at that time. So at 9 years old, mom went down to the local 4-H, and we started
Right.
4-H, and
There you
I
go.
did sheep and everything else. And without 4-H, through 4-H and you, I met my wife, and now we've gone all over the world in the
Yep.
United States. And now my
That's
daughter, I'm signing her up for clover bud this month.
how cool is that?
So now that's third generation. That's three
Right.
generations of 4-H in
Right.
my family, and
Right.
and it is cool, man. And the thing with going full circle and getting back to teens are still my age group. I love
Yep.
working with teenagers, and
Yep.
I haven't had the opportunity to work with them much in the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
But with that said, seeing giving our future leaders the opportunity, and Chef Spear and I talked about this just an hour ago as well, as adults, giving people the opportunity to fail,
Absolutely.
giving
Yep.
people the opportunity to fall
Yep.
flat on their freaking face, and
Yep.
to have your hand out and say, okay, well, that kind of sucked, didn't it? And I mentioned this earlier, for me, that as a leader, to allow my teens when
Yes.
I was working in
Right.
Germany, to allow them to fail was
Yep.
a leadership development for myself.
Yes.
And that was a hard one, man. Hard one. Because as adults, we've been through it, we've done it, we know what
Yep.
to do, we know how to
Yep.
do it. And the easy thing to do is just say, okay, do these things, make these, here's
Yep.
everything to do. And if you don't do it, I'm going to do it. And it's
Right.
easier.
Right.
And Nancy Chaffin was the one that taught me that lesson the hardest was, oh, you guys have an idea? Great.
Yep.
Go do it.
That's right.
No, you're supposed to do it for us. No, not how this works.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
You do it. You
Yep.
figure it out.
Yep.
And when you screw it up, we'll figure it out.
Well, as part of, and you had mentioned in our last conversation too about the teens working with youth and about how adults should let kids be more involved, and I agree with that. But I think that it's easier said than done.
Mm-hmm.
Mary Lee Wood and I were part of. Well, when it first, it's I don't know what year it would have been, quite a long time ago now, but the first inklings of the youth adult partnership programs that
Mm-hmm.
started to bubble up in extension. I don't know, early '90s, somewhere in there, and they called them youth adult partnerships, and in many circles they still do. But the problem, I say problem, and of course everything I say is my opinion and worth probably exactly what it cost anybody to get it, but the trick of it is, and you know this, Dale, I know you do. The trick of it is, as the adult, to sit back and let the kids, as you just said, let them fail. You've got to let them take that step where they fully understand that what they did was not workable, that they need to try a different approach. And it's hard to find an adult who's willing to do that, because many adults, they don't want to look bad, so I better fix this so
Mm-hmm.
don't go haywire, because I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to reflect bad on my work report or whatever. So that's, in my humble opinion, in a lot of cases, that's where that whole thing kind of went haywire, because you've got to be willing, as you point out, to let the kids fail.
Mm-hmm.
And if it doesn't jump up and smack them in the face, they don't get it. And part of the beauty of 4-H is that while you're a teen, you've got your leader, you've got your parents. So if you fail, it's not going to cost you thousands and thousands of dollars. It's not going to wreck your marriage. It's not going to, make you go bankrupt. You're at home. You're in a quote unquote safe environment where there's a safety net that if you fail, they catch you. So
Yep.
and that's part of what 4-H is supposed to do, is help prepare these kids for the real world. So
Yep.
while teens, we got to be wise enough as adults to let them fail, let them learn those lessons, so that later when they're adults, maybe they can avoid some of those pitfalls.
100%, 100%, man. Because transfer that to adulthood. All right. So if we're talking legacy here, we tend to, as humans, replicate what we learned. You've
Right.
already said it.
Right.
We
Yep.
replicate what we see and what we experience. And unfortunately, that can be positive and it can be negative. I'm
That's right.
I'm today working through a lot of things that I learned the wrong way as a
Yeah.
child. And
Yeah.
so it's taken me this long to get the balls to make
Sure.
those changes, right? But with
Right.
that said, when it comes to leadership, okay, so if we're not allowing our kids, our youth to fail, we're not allowing them to have these oopses at a young age where, like you said, they have the time, they have the
Right.
safety net. It's okay for that to happen.
Right.
But if they're learning that it's not okay to fail, it's not okay to allow that to happen, then we transfer that leadership, that mentality, that whatever, that
Yep.
conditioning to
Yep.
adulthood. And
Yep.
now we have micromanagers. Now we have
Yeah.
people who
Yep.
allow their pride to interfere with the success of XYZ.
Yep.
And now we're generational. Now we have
That's
a
right.
legacy
Yeah.
of businesses, community leaders, family leaders
That's it.
that
Yeah. Oh,
are not
yeah.
allowing their kids to go out and experience. They're not allowing their employees to go out and have ownership on
Yep.
both the successes and
Yep.
ownership of the failures.
I agree. I totally agree with you, Dale.
And it's hard. I mean,
It is.
because without people like you who are setting these precedents at a younger age, where those of us who actually tried to listen, and I feel that there's a group of us that listened very well to what you had to say and what you
Oh, absolutely.
taught,
Yes. Yes.
we have a different spin on things. We have a different bend on things. But then when we go into the workforce, when we go into the community and we see others that are just, in our opinion, we're just like, you're being a blockhead. You know, it's
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
it's really hard to, it's just really hard.
It is. It is. It is. Well, and I'm not sure how relevant this what I'm going to share next is to this conversation. I think it is. It goes back to communication. It goes back to how do teens learn,
Mm-hmm.
and ultimately how do we all learn. I was asked a couple of years ago to do a well, it's probably 3 years ago coming on to do a workshop at the mayor's youth action committees group.
Oh,
You know,
nice.
many
Nice.
the Mayaki, many of these cities have a it's not 4-H, but it's a 4-H
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing where the mayor says, okay, we're going to have this youth action committee, and those of you that are interested in civic things and how the city works, come and join. And it's a
Mm-hmm.
volunteer thing. They have to go, so they have officers and do all this stuff. So at the state conference of mayors that was held that year, they have a track for the kids from these mayors' youth action committees.
Oh no. Oh, you know what? I wonder if the same thing happened as last time. Somebody called him. That happened the
My phone rang.
Yeah, I was just saying that. I was like, you know what? I
Yeah,
bet somebody's calling you.
I just pushed the red button. Anyway, so there were like 28 of these Mayor's Youth Action Committee members who were at the meeting that year, the statewide meeting. So I was asked to do this track for them, and so I thought, well, geez, I mean, I like teens, you know that, and these were all teens, all high school kids, but they were not 4-H kids. These were, if quote unquote, city kids. You know, I'm used to working with 4-H kids, and they're a little bit different. And I thought, well, gee, I wonder how this is going to go. They might not even like me. So I thought, well, we'll do a mini ambassador kind of a thing here. And so I had an hour with them. So I said, okay, I'm going to give you guys an assignment, and what I want you to do is come up with a 1 minute speech that you can make, and your topic is what do you think is the most effective form of communication? Period. That's it. You take that, come up with whatever definition you want, however you want it, whatever you want to say in 60 seconds. What do you think is the most effective form of communication? And we won't take a lot of time to go into it. Yeah, I would have thought, well, text. I'd have thought text, not email. These email is so ancient for these kids
Yeah.
now, not even, or maybe phone calls, or I don't know. And I was blown away by their response. I'll bet you of the 28 kids, I'll bet 85% of them said eyeball to eyeball, face to face. I would have never guessed in this
There you
techno
go.
world of people walking down the sidewalk with their face in their smartphone, running into cars. I would have never thought that these
Right.
kids would have said eyeball to eyeball, face to face. But that was their instinct. That was their instinct was to come up. They want that contact. They
Right.
want to look somebody in the eye. They want somebody to look them in the eye. That people want that, I believe. So that
Right.
was interesting.
Absolutely.
It was interesting, and that's a lot of what these kids, these teens want when they go to these things. You've seen it. They respond to the adults that give them that, Dale.
Yeah.
The adults who have the ability to be patient with these teens and listen and step back and let them try and fail, as we
Yep.
just discussed, those are the adults that they gravitate to because that's what they're looking for.
Yep. And you're talking about the adult youth interaction, and one of the questions that I ask a lot of people, and you and I have talked about this many times, is at what point, let me back up. So there's a select few of us in my experience that have never forgotten our youth, like truly forgotten our youth.
Yeah.
And there are so many people, and I get so frustrated when it seems like there's a certain period in our lives, and I don't know what perpetuates the switch, but it's like we automatically forget, as adults, as parents, as something, we forget what it's like to be a kid. We
Yeah.
forget what it's
Yeah.
like, the shit that we did as teenagers, you know, and it's like they turn into from reality to, oh yeah, no,
Yeah.
we never did anything like
Yeah.
that, we were good.
Yeah.
Hi, we grew up together, I know the crap you did, and
Yeah.
it's so frustrating to me because then it turns around, and once again we're talking legacy, because all of this trickles down, and that's what I love
Yeah.
about this
Yeah.
topic, is that all
Yeah.
trickles down, is that we're like, oh well, when I was a kid I was perfect.
Yeah.
Horseshit.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
And our kids are going to call us out on it, and then that just
Yeah.
causes this.
Oh yeah.
um but what, tell me, man, you're smarter than I am, how do people forget their own childhood?
Well, first of all, I'm not smarter than you, Dale, so I'll take issue with that. But I don't know. I think it's just a natural, normal inclination of many people to see things just through. They have blinders.
Yeah.
Like the old horses, they put the blinders on so all the horse could see was exactly ahead of him, so he wouldn't get distracted. So, in my little perception, a lot of people just have blinders, and they have a. I mean, I'm not trying to be judgmental. People, it's just my opinion. They have a limited view of the world.
Yeah.
And most of their view, sadly, again, in my opinion, revolves around their particular day and their particular interests, and they just don't have room to open the blinders and really let someone else be who they want to be, kind of thing. Or acknowledge that other people are different and let them go do their thing while you do yours. I mean, a lot of people just
do you do you
want their own way. A lot of
do you
people,
think
and it's a
people
go
sorry,
ahead.
go ahead.
No, go ahead, Dale.
I was going to say, do you think people are afraid of being judged?
Oh yeah, I
I mean,
do. Yeah,
because
I think we all are. We all are.
because
Some of us,
I did stupid things. I
yes.
did dumb things. Maybe not as dumb as other people,
Well,
but at the same time, though, I kind of like telling the stories of when I did stupid shit. And it. But then again, I guess I need to back up as well. I guess maybe I need to back up as well, because my teenage years were some of my favorite years.
yeah,
I absolutely adored that time in my life. I love
yeah,
this time in my life.
right,
But I adore
yeah,
those memories, and I
yeah.
adore that part of it. And I think sometimes maybe I need to take a step back and realize that maybe not everyone had the same relationship with their teenagers than I did.
Well, that's probably true, Dale. I mean, we all had a different experience, obviously.
Right.
And you're saying that was your favorite time. Pretty sure there's people out there that would not say that
Hmm.
about their time as a
Correct.
teen. And who knows, family life at home, or got made fun of or bullied by the clay. I mean, there's a
Yeah.
million reasons, as well as I do. But there's nothing any of us can do about that. You know, I mean, some people spend a lot of time sitting around, oh, well, what was me? And that was terrible when I was young, and now I'm screwed up and I can't do anything. Well, if you want to do that, if you want to play that game, you can. But at the end of the day, if you want to get better, you got to sit down and have a long, hard conversation with yourself and say, well, that was then, this is now, and all I have now is from this moment on.
Amen.
So I can A, sit here and whine about how terrible life has been and was and feel bad about, or B, I can just look back over my life. What are the valuable lessons I can take from the past? And let's try not to do those in the future.
Yep.
Let's get back up and get going and set some new goals and apply some self-discipline to ourselves and make some changes that can result in some real positive things in our life from this point
Mm-hmm.
forward. And to me, that's a lot of what a lot of people just either don't or aren't able or whatever. That a lot of people get caught up in why they don't have what they think they should have, or why they aren't where they think they should be, whether
Mm-hmm.
they're 75 or whether they're 17, doesn't matter. I went to a conference last summer, uh, a speakers training seminar, I guess you could say, by Dr. Vincent Katuku over in Boise. I don't know if
Yeah.
you've heard of Vincent or not, but I met up with him last winter for, I won't bore you with the story, but met up with him, and then he says, well, hey, he says, I'm thinking of doing one of these training seminars this summer. Would you like to come? I said, yeah, you bet. So, I paid the money and went 2 days, and there was 8 of us there. Brought Lauren Rubin. I don't know if you remember Lauren Rubin from Teen Conference. She was from Jim County. Melissa McDaniel's her mom. I'll bet you knew her at the time, but maybe you don't remember. Anyway,
Probably.
she was in it. She was in this class, and all different kind of people, different walks of life. And there was a guy there, 80 years old. 80 years old. He joined the Navy, attended the Naval Academy, got a PhD in literally nuclear physics. He
Wow.
was he did that for the Navy for 20 years, full career as a nuclear scientist. Retired from that, decided he wanted to be a pastor, so he went to divinity school, got his degree in, I don't know what you call a degree in divinity, but he got one of those, and spent the next 20 years being a preacher. Well, then him and his wife traveled for a while, and he lost his wife, and he's like 80 years old now. And he's at this speakers training conference. Well, I'm thinking, well, dude, if somebody knows how to speak, it'd sure be you. Give him
Right.
your. And so, well, I had to give a talk, and I ended up being second last. I don't know why, but I'm big on dreams and goals, and making stuff happen in your life if that's what you want to do. And I forget exactly what I said, but I said my part and sat down. So he had Dr. Katuka had everybody give a speech. He'd have us go around the room and he'd have everybody give their comments on the presentation they just heard. So I gave him mine, sat down, and they got to this guy, and he's there. After listening to what you said, I think I need to find some new dreams. And I thought, wow,
Wow.
you can't buy a compliment like that. Here's this guy with that background. I don't know what I said. 80 years old, and he's thinking, and literally, quote unquote, after hearing what you said, I think I need to find some new dreams. I need to find,
Wow.
yeah. So, I mean, it doesn't matter how old you are, but it's about what happens in here. Like I said, what happens in here is what guides you and keeps you going.
Andy, because everybody, we chat usually before the live broadcast,
Yeah.
and then we usually
Yeah.
chat after. I do this with
Yeah.
everyone, and Andy and
Right.
I had a really great chat afterwards this last time, and I was bitching and moaning, and I was talking about how I'm working through all the bull crap in my mind and everything. And Andy, you gave me a piece of advice that I truly love and I adore, and I really appreciate it, and I'm taking it to heart, and I've actually forwarded. Want to talk about legacy, man? I actually forwarded this piece of advice to someone else
Oh,
already.
wow. Well, thank you,
And
man.
your piece of advice, you basically told me to shut up. You're like, Dale, stop, because I was bitching about something. I don't even
Yeah.
remember what it was, but I was probably putting myself down for something because that's an issue I
Probably,
have.
yeah.
And you just said, Dale, shut up, stop. And your piece, it was the most simple thing in the world that you said that has made a huge impact just in the last couple
Really.
3 weeks. You said, Dale, you're human.
Well, it's true.
It's true. And
Yeah.
brother, I'm telling you, it's simple things like that people in your influence of life and leadership development, you have a view of people and the space in the world that not a lot of people have. And you have a command of the people around you to be able to say, shut it, stop. And the thing that I love about you and several other people in my life is that you can tell somebody to shut their face with the utmost amount of love and respect in the world. And to be able to just say something as simple as, Dale, you're human. You're going to screw up. You're going to make mistakes. And it's just, how are we going to deal with this as we go through it? And honestly, man, just in the last couple 3 weeks, that has made an impact on me as I'm going through this
Huh.
massive change in my life and this massive growth period that I'm going
Huh.
through. And it's easy for me to start going, you know, and I just try to stop and think. I'm like, no, I'm
Yeah,
human.
that's right. Well,
I messed
I'm
up.
glad that helped, Dale. I really am. But it's true. Whether I said it or somebody else did, it's still true. We all make mistakes. We never get done making mistakes because we're just people. We all just get up in the morning and do the best we can that day to get through the day, hopefully with a smile on our face. That's all we can do, you know.
Right,
And we don't have to be pulled down or sucked down by things in our past unless we choose to let them do that.
right,
We can choose any day, any moment. We can make a decision. You know what? I'm sick of this. You know, this is not getting me. What I'm doing is not getting me where I want to go. It's not good for me. It's not good for my family, the people close, not good for my business, you know, whatever you want to pick. So as of this moment, I'm going to choose to
mm-hmm.
do A, B, and C in a different way and get busy and do it. You know, you have to
Yeah.
do it. You have to get follow through. But any of us, any day, can make that decision. So
Amen. Amen. And brother, I learned it from you, and I've made it kind of I don't know, life motto. I don't know what the right term is, but is that life is our life. Break our life down. Break
yeah,
everything in
yeah,
this world down, and it's choices.
yeah, absolutely.
There
Yeah,
is, I
yes,
don't care if we're talking religion. I don't care if we're
yep,
talking politics.
that,
I don't
yep,
care if we're talking about
yep,
crop rotation. I don't
yep,
I don't care what we're talking about. Life.
yep.
Life
Mhm.
is about choices and dealing with the positive and the negative consequences of those choices. And I can tell you specifically where I learned that as a young adult. And I'm sure I've told you this, but specifically where I learned that is the light bulb came on. I had my aha moment was when we were sitting in the hotel with you and Wayne and all of us kids at the Western Regional
Really?
Congress in
Yeah, yeah,
Salt Lake
yeah,
City.
yeah,
I don't remember what hotel it was, but we were in Salt Lake City,
yep,
and we asked if we could go out, if we could go
yeah,
out and do something. I don't even
yeah,
remember what it was, but we asked if we could go out, and you and Wayne both sat us all down. And there was, I don't know,
yeah,
15, 20 of us. There wasn't very many.
yeah, yeah,
And you sat us down and you said, listen, we don't have a problem with you going out. We don't have a problem with you staying out after curfew. We
yeah,
don't care. We really don't care. But here's the thing, you represent Idaho, you
yeah.
represent 4-H, and your choices will dictate whether or not we're going to let you do this again. We were floored. I had
Yeah,
never, ever in my entire life, I was what, 13? In my entire life,
yeah,
I had never had an adult lay it out like that. Ever.
really, huh?
Ever. I had never had
Yeah,
an adult say, it's your
yeah,
choice. Because
yeah,
up until that time, it's like yes or no. And if it's
yeah, yeah,
no, and if you push back, then you're going to get in trouble. If it's a
yep, yep,
yes, here's all the
yeah,
parameters that go
yeah,
around that. You had no parameters other than make good choices.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's
And
interesting that that moment stuck with you all this time, Dale.
mhm,
Yeah,
absolutely,
yeah, cool.
absolutely. And honestly, I don't think we went out. I don't remember ever leaving that hotel because we chose to not take a chance
Yeah,
to
yeah.
to to not go out. So I think we ended up sitting in your room till 2 o'clock in the morning playing cards.
Yeah, I'm guessing that would be correct. I remember that year. I remember the room. I remember what the room looked like. I remember you guys being in and out of there. I don't remember this exchange that you've described, but it fits.
Yeah,
It fits with my philosophy, and it fits with Wayne Sharp, and it
yeah,
fits with me that you guys would decide, okay, let's don't do it because now we've thought about it. I mean, that's always been my philosophy. You lay it out for. I mean, I'll say this. I have never been disappointed by kids at any event I've been to with them, and I have been to a boatload of events with 4-H teens in my 44 years as a volunteer. A boatload, and I've never been let down by the kids. I never had to send a kid home from ambassadors. Nothing and all, and it really blows me away when I sit down and contemplate that. You know, reflect on that. It's like, man, But I always set the expectation right away. And ambassadors, like the second paragraph, I would say when we get together, look, this is the deal. Lights out at this time, and blah 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 blah. And if you screw up, you'll be sent home, and you will not be allowed back. I mean, you set the expectation, and never had a problem. Now, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know for sure what happened, after hours, because I wasn't out there chasing around. It could be there's some stories somewhere. I don't know.
Oh, I'm sure there
Uh,
are.
yeah, there probably are, because kids will be kids, as you pointed
Yes.
out a moment ago. And I remember I never did anything like that, of course, but I do remember some of my cohorts back in my day doing some stuff like that. So it goes as part of being human.
Yeah.
The nature of man has not changed since Adam and Eve. Everybody's got a little streak of something in them. I don't care. I don't care what.
Well, and you're absolutely right. And I use that lesson throughout all of my youth programs is setting the example, setting the precedent, and
Yeah.
the purpose of what was going on. And I mean I ran college staff for
Oh, quite a few years
14
too.
years.
Yeah, long time. Yeah.
14 years. And I'd do the beginning meetings with all the kids, the
Yeah.
guys, you remember that. And that was
Do.
part of my
Absolutely.
spiel,
Yes.
and the spiel was, listen, here's the
Yeah.
expectations. It's your
That's right.
choice.
That's right.
And I told him, I was like, I don't care what time you go to bed, but
Yeah.
these the things that will
Yes.
happen. And if
Right.
you don't do these things,
Yeah.
then I am Thor's hammer and I will come
Yeah.
down on you.
That's right.
And for me personally, and this goes into business management, this goes into leading anyone,
Yep.
is I'm a person, I don't avoid conflict, but it's not I don't go out and pursue
Yes.
conflict.
Same here.
And I don't enjoy chewing on people
Right.
when it's not needed. I don't I'll chew on you, I'll jump down your throat, but it's not something that I want to do. But the
Right.
thing that I've learned about as a leader is that when I set it up and I say, listen, here's what needs to happen, and I'm looking you in the eye as an
Yeah.
individual or as a group, I'm looking you in the eye and I'm telling you right now, this is what has to happen, and you
Right.
need to do these things.
Yeah.
Done. I'm
Yeah.
finished. But I need
Yeah.
you to understand at the same time is that if you don't do this, or if you do something opposite of what needs to be done, I'm not going to think twice to come
Yeah.
down on you hard.
That's right. That's right.
Just letting you know.
Yep.
And
And most of the
that,
time, that's all they need to hear.
yeah.
Once they know what the deal is, as you well know, I don't think you've had much more trouble than I have with the kids over the years that you were in charge of. As long as they know the expectation, they know you're going to follow through. That's usually all it takes.
Well, and here's the other thing is that, especially with teenagers, but let's talk about adults too, because we're just all big dumb
Yes.
kids,
Right.
is that you mess up and I'm going to come down on you.
Yeah.
Andy, blah, 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 blah. Well,
Yeah.
there's a lot of a tendency for a lot of us to bow back and say, well, well, well.
Yeah. Yeah.
But here's the thing that I've learned is that by doing what we just discussed, and then I come down on you, there's no
Right.
pushback.
Yeah.
There's very little pushback. And then if there is any pushback, I could say, whoa, 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 whoa.
Yeah.
You knew what was good. You knew the consequence that was coming down. You
Yeah.
knew this. So
Yeah.
pushing back on me does zero good.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's done. It's over with. Let's move on. Let's make this
Yeah.
happen. And
Yeah.
I've learned that with kids and also adults. When I was running big events and I was running crews and everything else, setting that precedent. And then when someone screwed up and I came down on them and they started pushing back, I'm like, no,
Yeah.
no. I feel 100% okay with my actions because I
Yeah.
already told you what I was going to do.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And of course, one of the differences in dealing with adults is they can just leave. I mean, they get all PO'd, they can leave, and the kids it's a different dynamic, but the same basic principles apply.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, being a farmer, I spent most of my adult life, by myself,
Right.
except for my 4-H stuff.
Right.
I'm a hell of a singer in the cab of a tractor, but past that, forget it. But people like you, I mean, your adult life is with other adults. You've had different jobs and these businesses that you've started and everything. You're out there interacting with adults, trying to create teams and with a common goal and trying to get everybody to pull the same direction so that you can make something happen. And there's money at stake, and people are investing time and energy that otherwise would go to their family. So it's change. The dynamic changes because there's more at stake as adults. Plus, as adults, we're free agents. We can say, well, screw you. I don't like how this is going. I'm going to take my marbles and go play somewhere else. And those that are left just have to deal with it. Where with kids, you have more, you've got them for a weekend or for a week or whatever, and they kind of got to play. So, but the same elements of getting people on board and getting people up to speed with what the goals of the group are still apply.
Mm-hmm.
They still apply. And it blows me away sometimes when you hear these examples of business bureaucracies, we'll say, where there's a large business, more than a few people, and the dude at the top is oblivious to what the guy out on the line is doing, or the guy at the front desk or whatever. And I think, what in the world is the deal here? How come the dude at the top doesn't have a once a week meeting with the guys on the ground to make sure we're all kind of in the same, you know what I'm saying, Dale?
Yep.
It just, there's just a whole lot of uncommunicating going on out there, which if there were more, some of these situations would be much more successful. People want to feel like the people they're working with, whether it's the guy 2 notches up or the guy in the next chair, that you all care about each other, and you all got something at stake, and you're all kind of pulling together to make something happen.
Yep.
So in the course of a job, or the real word, you got to make a living because we all got to pay the bills. But it goes deeper than that. If we go someplace to work, and they're sending us a decent check, but we enjoy going because the people we work with, we feel care about us, and we having problems, they'll listen or whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's this whole deal of being aware of other people, taking the blinders off, and seeing the world from a little larger perspective, and trying to make it good for everybody, kind of a thing.
Oh, absolutely, man. Absolutely. And that's the thing that I love about youth leadership, and taking these kids to another level and giving them opportunities to experience different things. It doesn't matter what the program is, whether it's 4-H, whether it's the governor's program, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter.
That's right.
And it's amazing to me to certain aspects of leadership. Actually, let me ask you this question. Do you feel that great leaders are born or developed?
Well, that's a big old fat one. I'll tell you, Dale, I really think that, again, this is my half-a-cent opinion. I think the great leaders are born.
Okay.
I think we are all, I said this last time, we're all given certain gifts.
Yes.
We're not going to go off talking about religion, but I believe that there is a God, etc., for whatever it's worth. And I think we're each given whatever we are given for reasons unknown to us. But at the end of the day, we each have whatever personal assets we have.
Mm-hmm.
Some people just can't speak in front of a group. I don't care how many ambassador trainings you took them to, how kind and considerate and gently persuasive you were with them, and how you explained how helpful this would be, down the road as they become adults. Some people, you would not get them up there any way you tried. And so that person probably is not going to be a successful motivational speaker down the road.
Right.
That person might think, I'd like to be a professional, but they don't have the tools. They just don't have the tools. Some other, and this as well or better than I do, some of these kids in 4-H, and I'm sure other things, they're just born speakers.
Yeah.
They're born people, for whatever reason, they have this asset that allows them to be outgoing, to be congenial, to be good listeners, and they just draw people in. Now, is that something you learn? I don't think so. Just my opinion. I mean, you do have, you mentioned a while back when you have a big personality. You do, Dale. You have a big personality. You're one of these gregarious, fun-loving, and yet you're a good listener, which is a unique, there are not a lot of good listeners out there. My 2 cents, there are not a lot of good listeners. A lot of people like to do this. A lot of people like to talk.
Right.
But it's not so easy to find somebody who truly is a good listener, will just sit back and let the other person say whatever. And really, so now I lost where I was going. I had a point and I lost it.
Well, let me touch on that, because I'm not going to. Okay, so I've been doing a lot of.
Yeah, wait.
Go.
Did I think people were born as good leaders or not? That was it.
Yeah.
So I really think that if you don't have some of these assets to work with, how can you develop them?
Right.
Now, I think if there's somebody who's in the middle somewhere who has some raw talent and then has a desire to develop that talent, I think someone like that has the potential to become a great leader. But I think some people, they're not going to be a leader no matter what you do.
Right.
And there are those who will be a leader no matter what people try to do to hold them down.
Right.
I don't know if that's a good answer or not, but that's
No,
that's
and
my
that's a great
thought on
answer.
the topic.
That's a
Well,
great answer because there has been forever this great debate whether or not leaders
oh
are
yeah,
born or developed.
yeah,
And, you know, you can take a look at the anthropology of it, you know, their
yes,
lineage and their communities
right,
and
right,
the this, the that, the this, the that,
right.
you know, and I feel that in my limited experience in this world, the small footprint that I've made on the world is that I've seen both. I think I've seen folks that are just like you said, they're just
Yeah,
naturally that way.
yeah,
But some now that I have kids and
right.
I'm looking at the world a little differently as well. You know, I'm looking at my 5 and 3 year old and
Yep.
I'm like, okay, so what is she going to be like? What is he going to be like? And just out of curiosity, if anything, it's like my little experiment.
Yes,
You know, here's my petri
right.
dish, and I'm going to poke it this way, and I'm going to poke it that way. You know, but I look back on my life, and I look
Yep,
at where I come from, which is you want to talk about a micro community
yep.
that's rather isolated. You know, it's kind of hard to find any more of an isolated community than that in the lower 48.
Yes, that's right.
So it's been an interesting reflection. And being that my mom's lived with us for a while, I've been able to ask a lot of these kind of
Yep.
questions of my childhood that I'm fuzzy on.
Yes.
My dad, you know, I look at my dad. My dad was, I don't think you ever really met him,
No,
but
I never did. I never got to meet your dad.
my dad was a big personality as well. Small man with a
Uh,
big
uh,
personality. You know,
uh.
he was the definition of a bullshitter, not in a negative sense, but you know, the old
Yeah,
farmer,
yeah,
the
yeah,
old rancher. You know, you
yeah,
don't get him started, or you're going to be there 2 hours
yeah,
late.
yeah,
That was my dad through and
yeah.
through. You know, we called it the coffee clatch. You know, they went down to
Yes.
the Norfolk store every morning,
Yep.
drank their pot and a half of
Yep.
coffee apiece. And if you were a fly on the wall, you'd be like, "Oh, where are
Oh
these guys
yeah.
coming from?" Right? And my dad was one that, even though he didn't like a lot of people, he
Yeah.
could have a conversation with almost anyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I learned, I think, being that I was raised an only child, that I wasn't around kids my age until I was in school, until
Yeah.
I was in first
Yeah.
grade. I was not around kids my own age. So I was
Yep.
around adults, and my
Yep.
parents were older. You know, people thought I was their grandkid.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was around, that's the age that I grew up around.
Yep.
And so I guess matured earlier in
Probably did.
certain parts of my life.
Yeah.
Other parts of
Right.
my life, I'm still not mature. I'm still just a
Well,
big
that's
dumb
good.
kid.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But with that said, that's a long way to get to where I'm trying to say is that for me, if I didn't have my dad the way he was, and if I
Right.
wasn't around adults more than kids as a child,
Yep.
would I have the abilities and the confidences that I have now? Shit, I don't know.
You
I,
don't know.
I don't know.
Yep.
But as a leader, I still am not. In me personally, I still feel that the the jury's out on whether or not I'm an effective leader. Still, I'm still developing so much more. But I am a great conversationalist. I am a great communicator.
Well, that's an interesting distinction there, Dale.
Well, and that's the way I view myself. Now, granted, it's
Yeah.
dated. It's, you know, our view of ourselves are very
Yes.
one way or
Yes.
not.
Yeah, that's
Um,
exactly right.
you know, so I don't know. I think that our environment in our childhood and those of who influence us, like yourself, I think that really has a huge amount to do whether or not we develop into a leader or not.
I
That's
agree. No, yeah, I do agree with that, Dale. And I know I think you are a great leader. I mean, look at the kids who came to teen conference to work with you and the way you led that group of kids. And it was a different group every year, you know, as kids, cycled in and cycled out. And you did an awesome job of leading those kids. So,
uh,
based on my experience with you, I think you're a terrific leader.
I
And
appreciate that.
yeah, oh yeah. But it's, not just because that's my opinion doesn't mean it's right. But
No,
I
no,
believe
no,
that.
no.
I
I
think I
wrote it
think there can
down.
be
It's
people.
done.
I think there are people who sometimes are born with we'll say personal assets that never get developed, maybe because of the way they're raised or the circumstances under which they're raised. They just never are encouraged or never get a chance to spread their wings a little and find out what they have and then discover an avenue through which to use them and develop them. So I think there's a lot of, well, the old saying, the world's full of undeveloped potential,
That's a
and
valid
it
point.
is, it truly is. And who knows why? Probably largely because of the way people grow up. There's a ton of people who grew up in not so cool circumstances. Sadly, it's a shame, but it's just a fact of life.
Yeah.
And then you talk about legacy. You were talking a moment ago about, well, your lineage and stuff. Well, that's true, but every time a man and a woman, a mother and father have a kid, you got a whole new deal. Because now you've combined two lineages, and we're all different. One of the miracles of this world is that there are no two of us who are exactly alike. Of all the billions of people on the face of this earth, we are each one a unique individual. Man, woman, don't matter. We are each a unique. How crazy is that, Dale?
Well, this world doesn't need two of this.
Well, or this, as far as that goes. But even so, think about it. How can that even be? And yet it is.
Yeah.
And so, and then of course you take all the myriad numbers, different numbers of personalities, and then you factor in all the different circumstances under which they grow up and develop, and what things occur in their lives that push them down this path or some other path. You can just go on forever and ever. And somehow, like Kirk Chess the other day, man, I was blown away at what that guy's doing. He's tearing up out there. Man, that was, dude's got it going on. What can you say? He's just going crazy. So as I remember, he was just this kind of quiet kid. He was a nice kid, but just kind of quiet and matter of fact and stuff. But he was there and he participated. Man, look what he's done. So there's some guy you just thought was kind of a nice, quiet kid, and well, he'll probably do okay. Man, he's out there
tearing it up.
Developed one insurance agency and sold it to some other outfit and started another one. And I don't know if he sold. I don't know, but anyway, doing very well for himself.
Yes,
but obviously a very good leader, or he wouldn't have been able to accomplish all these things.
Right.
So
right
on.
Yeah, and and that's the cool thing, and we need to wrap this up, brother. But that's. I don't like bragging, and I've actually, I was on a couple phone calls yesterday, and I finally got comfortable with bragging about something in my life. Okay. Because I don't like braggers. I don't like arrogance, all that stupidity. Yep. But here's one thing that I am okay with bragging about is I have some insanely cool people in my life. I have this list of people that still claim me for whatever reason as a person in their life. And and that's what this kick-assery is all about, man. That's what this is all about. This is my opportunity to brag on people and for us to share these experiences and to share all of this. And that's what this is turning into. I still don't know what this is going to be when it all develops, and but I'm not running a hard rudder on this. I'm not. I'm saying, okay, here's my list of people, and my list of people that I want to do this is growing every day, and I'm not having to reach outside of my personal bubble yet, and yourself, Nancy, 4 or 5 other 4-Hers are going to be on here as well. What is it? Day after tomorrow, Rosa's going to be on.
I saw that. I saw she was coming up.
Yeah, I'm super excited about that, and I'm okay with bragging about this. I am okay with bragging about the people that I have in my life that are insanely awesome, and that's what this is about, man. And Andy, if you want to talk about and you're probably not going to accept it because neither one of us like to accept accolades, but here's the thing. I loved it when we were going back and forth about what to talk about, and this legacy of leadership came up because you truly are a phenomenal example of legacy of leadership and developing young leaders and taking them to where they need to be and showing them it's okay to move on. It's okay to fail. It's okay to succeed. It's okay to dream. Here's how you set your goals. Here's how you move beyond your current position in life to go forward. And because you've done that so well, you've done it for so long, and you've made such an amazing impact on several generations of youth, then that has now been magnified. It's been duplicated and multiplied. And that is true influence.
Well, thank you, Dale. That's a huge compliment, and I'll take it as one, and it means a great deal. So thank you very much for.
And you're very, very
Yeah.
welcome. And because, yeah, because I'm taking what you taught me and I'm just duplicating.
Well, that's what it's about. We hope that we do something that's worth replicating. And so the fact that you take it that way is a huge compliment to me. And I just thank God. What can I say?
Yep, absolutely.
What you're doing here, though, Dale, is I think it's given all of us, me and Nancy and whomever else you get on here, one of the things that occurs to me, it gives us a chance to share these things. I mean,
Yes.
We go through life and we learn and we do whatever we do. And for people like you and like me and probably like many of these other people you've spoken with, you just don't like to just run around by yourself in that sense. So it's cool to have you, because you're who you are, have this idea and reach out to us and say, hey, you say to us, you're one of my friends. I value you and what has happened in my life because of you. And I want to talk to you about it. I mean, it's a huge compliment to each of us, Dale, that you want us to be a part of that. And in you talking to us, you give us a chance to talk about these things that we otherwise rarely get a chance to talk about. And what's making all of us, I think, I can probably speak for at least some of the others, make us feel like, well, hey, we're part of something that's going on here. Dale, our buddy Dale, has taken this thing on. He's invited us to be a part, and it's really cool, Dale. What can I say? And we're all given a chance to learn from each other. I think it's just awesome. It really is.
And I appreciate that, man. I really do. And it's so I had a phone call with my buddy Juan, my number
Yep.
Juan last night. He's on next week, and
Yeah.
so we were talking about this, and we were talking. I said, you know what, I can't believe this next sentence is coming out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Is that I it's not that I'm popular or I have, but this is becoming something more than myself.
Yes.
And I'm getting phone calls and I'm getting messages from people saying, holy crap, I haven't talked to Michelle Jakovac or man, John Mayhew or, this or, Andy Smyth, man, I remember these,
Yeah.
and whatever. And
that's it.
You have a very valid point, is that the connections and the
that's
memories.
right. The connection.
Yep. And, the, what's the word I'm looking for? The encouragement.
Yep.
I've had several conversations since the beginning of all of this of people like, dude, this is really encouraging me to do X. Or, man, seeing what Kirk has done with his life and knowing the community, holy crap, okay, it can be done. Absolutely, it can be done.
Yes. Yeah. Connection. You said connection a moment ago, and I think that's the whole key to this whole thing. It's providing a connection. I mean, most people get up in the morning, do whatever they do, go to work or wherever they do, and go home. And they do that, 5 days a week. And they have their wife, whatever. The old rut, you just talk about the rut. Well, this is a chance to break out of the rut. This is a chance to see, well, look what that guy's doing. It's people, I don't know all these people here, but I know some of them. So, so-and-so's doing whatever. And, well, as a result of us talking a couple weeks ago, a bunch of people popped up on Facebook. So you kind of get reconnected to that really fun time in your life. So it is. It's a very positive, uplifting thing to be a part of. And bless your heart for taking it on and making it go, Dale. Good for you.
Well, like I said, we're going to see what this all turns into.
There you go.
I'm as curious as anyone else is going to turn into. So, all right, brother, I love you, man. I really appreciate you. I could brag on you for days and days and days and days. I'm looking forward to our next chat. What I'd love to do for everyone else, I finally started my body language thing. We started a group. It's called Body Language by Dale. And I'm doing a series this week on handshakes, and then it's going to continue on. Andy, if you don't mind, I'd love to have you as a guest spot over there to talk more of the communication side and the body language. And, if nothing else, tell horrible old stories about how badly I presented myself decades ago. So, all right, man. Everyone else, have an amazing day. Keep smiling, because guess what? Somebody needs to see it. I'll talk to you guys soon. Hang out for just a minute.